Hey guys, so before we start the show today, just wanted to apologize up front for the crackling sound you hear sometime throughout the video. We tried fixing it and just couldn't do it in our post system. So apologies, and the next show will not have that. Thanks. Enjoy the Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the HPR Chronicles with Shakur and Smith.
What's up?
He is
Smith.
I know who he is. I'm just messing around. I'm Shakur.
It's a good day.
It's a podcast about history, politics, and race from a cool perspective. We're going to try to break it down simple and plain, like we always say. I'm a filmmaker from Trinidad and Tobago, and I've traveled a lot, and I've always had a love for history and politics. Chris is a veteran of the Army Reserves that works for the VA with a passion for history and politics. We always say it's about truth. You know, we're not pro any race, just pro truth. If the truth offends you, we're sorry, not sorry. That's our slogan every week, guys. And today we have an interesting topic, First of all, Crispy, how are you doing, brother?
I am having a good day. It's a good day.
All right, good. That's good, man.
How are you?
I am too. I'm good. It's Wednesday, hump day, as
Hump
they
day,
say.
yes it is.
Getting over the hump of the work week for all of our listeners. And hopefully we can bring you guys some cool information. Don't forget to subscribe on ISCT Group Digital. rptalktruth@gmail is the email. And keep listening on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play Music, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, all the cell phone podcast apps. Thanks again for listening. Give us those thumbs up, those stars, comment, all that good stuff. So a couple of weeks ago, we did the N-word, the word nigger.
More than a couple weeks, but yeah.
I forgot when it was. This is our 18th show, guys. So, 18th
His memory's
19th
bad.
show. So, yeah, I forget when we did it, but I do know we did it. So I thought it was only like today, my topic is the word cracker. You know what I'm saying? Now, I thought it was only right if we covered nigger, let's cover cracker, right? And it's a word, especially me growing up in Florida, it's a word that I've always heard.
Yeah.
Just coming up, it was just a part of the lexicon. It's something that we all knew.
Yeah.
White people refer to as cracker, but I never knew where that term came from or what it meant.
But it never, the
history of it.
I never felt like it was used as much as the N-word, you know what I mean?
No.
And it doesn't feel as bad, but I'm not white, so.
No, but it's funny you actually say that, especially coming from up north. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was used as much up north as it was down south.
Yeah.
And it's funny in my research, when I read this stuff, you'll kind of see why.
Okay.
It was more prevalent in the South than it was in the North or the West of us. It's interesting because I know growing up in Florida, like I said, like that's a known thing. I think I remember even telling Crispy guys that my ex-wife, she was white and she grew up in South Florida, and she was saying that yeah, well, she is. He always gets me on that is was thing. But she was telling me that they had National Cracker Day every Friday.
Okay.
Where all the white kids in high school would get beat up, and they called it National Cracker Day.
Now,
which is interesting to me.
I will say, I did hear, I recall a friend of mine back in Wisconsin that lived in Milwaukee, and yeah, they would do something, they would beat up white guys, and I don't know that they would call it National Cracker Day or anything like that, but I do recall hearing some stuff like that. So,
my ex told me they called it Cracker Day, which I thought was crazy.
Wow.
Like I was there, and she said every Friday all the white kids would be scared.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And to me this whole thing is interesting. It's almost like a certain generation lashing out at another generation for oppression and stuff they've gone through.
Yeah.
Because they really can't lash out at who the actual oppressor, the actual system is.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you look at systemic racism, which we covered last week or the week before, like Crispy said, I always forget. You'll hear about that. So that's what it was.
Okay.
Back then. People just. Because the kids in high school upset from what's going on, how they're being oppressed and stuff, they would take it out on the other kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
And
man.
to add,
So anyway.
now that I think about it, the friend who told me about it, he had one close white friend that he would always save because they considered him cool enough to not, get beat up just because.
See, that's crazy,
but anyway.
man. Very interesting. Anyway, so and like we always say, because this is a history show, we always want to make it factual. A lot of times, most of the times, we'll have to just research, find great information, and share it with you guys. So our viewers on YouTube, you could see that we're reading a lot of the time stuff like that, then we'll interact. Yeah. But if you're listening, you obviously can't see that. So I researched quite a few different articles, and this was actually the best one I found, man. And Gene Demby wrote this from the NPR, the National Public Radio. You know what I mean? And and he it was really, really good. You know what I mean? So that's why I chose this one, because it kind of really went through the whole history and got deep.
Okay.
So let me get into it, and then of course, stay tuned for the end of the show for Today in History, July 31st, so you guys could see what happened back in the 1400s, which one of them actually relates to me and where I'm from, which is interesting. I didn't know the date. So yeah, we will get into that at the end of the show. So here we go. So first thing I'd like to talk about this word cracker is the trial of George Zimmerman. If those of you who don't remember, he shot and killed Trayvon Martin after an altercation. And after that, Jeantel was on the phone with Martin moments before Zimmerman killed him. Okay. And Jeantel told the prosecutors and stuff and the defense that Martin said this creepy ass cracker is following me.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this was a big thing in the news that Trayvon said that this creepy ass cracker is following me. Got it. You know what I mean? And Zimmerman's attorney was like, she was saying that she didn't think the term was racist, and Zimmerman's attorney argued that it was. And I think he even tried to use Trayvon Martin saying that word as a part of his defense.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
So he was actually attacking him because he was a white guy. I remember.
Yeah, it was all over the news. So I just wanted to bring that up a little bit. So this is Gene Demby. So he starts off by saying, "Hold up a second, cracker, ? In 2013. It struck my ears as dated like Ofe or honky, the kind of slur an old head like Richard Pryor might have uttered." And I remember in watching Richard Pryor stand up, he would say that honky.
Yeah, honky.
It was hilarious.
We should look. That one should be another one because I don't understand the honky word.
I don't understand the history of honky either.
Yeah.
So Jeantel and Martin, of course, were millennials. Could cracker be a regional thing? ? Which it almost seems like to me, and I'll explain later, even though it's not, because I've heard even Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club say that. Okay. He was having an interview and talking about it, but then he grew up in South Carolina. See what I'm saying? Even though he's in New York now. You know what I mean? Anyway, I asked Jelani Cobb, a historian at the University of Connecticut and a contributor to The New Yorker, if he might know. You know what I mean? And his question was, is this a regional thing? Mm-hmm. That was his question. Full disclosure, he says, Cobb is a friend. He'd written about the etymology of some anti-white slurs, Peckerwood, Miss Ann, Mr. Charlie, and buckra, which I've even heard of buckra, a term that was once widely used throughout the black diaspora in the Americas, the Caribbean, and in West Africa. All these terms, which I had no idea. I've heard Peckerwood before, but I've never heard Miss Ann, Mr. Charlie, and buckra. But
I heard Mr. Charlie, but I didn't know Peckerwood really just applied to white people.
Yeah, I never knew, but apparently this stuff was used widely throughout the black diaspora in the Americas, the Caribbean, and in West Africa. Okay. Cracker, the old standby of Anglo insults, was first noted in the mid-18th century, making it older than the United States itself. It was used to refer to poor whites, particularly those inhabiting the frontier regions of Maryland, Virginia, and Georgia. It is suspected that it was a short-ended version of whip cracker. Since the manual labor they did involving driving livestock with a whip, not to mention the brutal arenas where those skills were employed, over the course of time, it came to represent a person of lower caste or criminal disposition. In some instances, was used in reference to bandits and other lawless folk. You know what I mean? This is white folk they're talking about from back in that time. But it turns out cracker's roots go back even further than the 17th century, which I didn't know, which is crazy, which I have something else to say at the end of this. All the way back to the age of Shakespeare, at least. The meaning of the word has changed a lot over the last 4 centuries, said Dana St. Clair, a Florida historian and anthropologist who studies crackers. He literally wrote the book on them. So this dude, Dana St. Clair, actually studied it, the word. So he got, you know what I'm saying? St. Clair pointed me to King John, published sometime in the 1590s. One character refers to another character as cracker, a common insult for an obnoxious bloviator. And I looked that up, and that's someone who just talks a lot. Okay. That's what that is. So what cracker is this saying that deafs our ears with the abundance of superfluous breath. You know, someone that's just talking crap is basically what he's saying. It's a beautiful quote, but it was a character trait that was used to describe a group of Celtic immigrants, Scots, Irish people who came to the Americas who were running from political circumstances in the old world, St. Clair said. Those Scot-Irish folks started settling in the Carolinas and later moved deeper south into Florida and Georgia. And see, Charlemagne the God was from South Carolina. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. But, so you're saying that this was used by white people for other white people that they considered lower.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Yep. But the disparaging term following these immigrants were thought by local officials to be unruly and all ill-mannered. In official documents, the governor of Florida said, "We don't know what to do with these crackers." That's what they literally said back then. We tell them to settle this area, and they don't. Tell them not to settle this area, and they do. St. Clair said they lived off the land. They were rogues. Now, this is an official document from the Florida governor back then. I don't know what we're gonna do about these crackers. So it's not surprising to me that in Florida, some kind of way, my generation in the 80s and 90s growing up, it was a part, like I said, about lexicon coming up in school and stuff. Yeah, man, these crackers and dog, these crackers. But it has deep history that we back then didn't even know. Correct. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. By the early 1800s, those immigrants to the South started to refer to themselves that way as a badge of honor and a term of endearment. Wow. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure this process of reappropriating a disparaging term sounds familiar to a lot of y'all. Yep. Like the word nigga. Yeah. Exact same thing. The crackers had their distinctive time-intensive cuisine. Swamp cabbage, swamp cabbage, Hoppin' John, corn pone, and favorite architectural style meant to make cooking in the brutal southern summers more bearable. There were baseball teams called the Crackers. According to St. Clair, we've even had a cracker president. According to him, he's like, Jimmy Carter is a cracker, St. Clair said. He's in Ethlerthorpe from Celtic English cracker stock. I don't know if he knows, but I think Jimmy Carter would probably call himself one. This is what St. Clair said based on Jimmy Carter's history. Wow. I'm sorry, this is funny, guys, to our listeners. Anyway, it was in the late 1800s when writers from the North started referring to the hayseed faction of the Southern homesteaders as crackers. Now, this is in the North. Those writers decided that they were called that because of the cracking of the whip when they drove slaves. Now, see, that's something that I heard. Okay. That's why blacks started saying it because of the cracking of the whip, crackers. But that's not even what it was from. It goes way deeper than that. That's probably what they tried to change it to. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But as we can see, that's not actual fact. But he said that few crackers would have owned slaves. They were generally too poor. That, of course, doesn't mean they weren't participants in the South's slave economy in other ways. So the crackers, as they would have it, were actually 2 Porter-owned slaves, the one that they would call the crackers. So that slave thing, you see, is not true that they thought. And we even thought that coming up in Miami. St. Clair said that by the 1940s, the term began to take on yet another meaning in American inner cities in particular, as an epithet for bigoted white folks. But he wasn't sure how it happened. I'm hazarding a guess here, but this would have been during the height of the Great Migration, as millions of black people from the South were moving to the North and West and fleeing Southern racism. They might have carried cracker with them as a shorthand for whites back in the Jim Crow South. That makes a lot of sense too. Yeah. In the 1990s, and guys, you can check out our episode on Jim Crow that we covered as well. You have done that one, right? Yeah. So in the 1990s, some officials in Highlands County, Florida, decided to name a new school the Cracker Trail Elementary School. Their hope was to honor their area's history. Wow. The school sat near the Florida Cracker Trail, but many in the county weren't having it. African Americans protested because they thought it was racist, and whites protested because they thought it was racist, St. Clair said. The school kept the name, though. Oh. You know what I'm saying?
School
the school kept the name.
That. We still doing it.
Yeah. For many Southern whites, though, cracker has remained uncomplicated, a source of cultural pride. There are people who will claim that there's a difference between Georgia cracker and a Florida cracker, but that's really just a difference of football teams, St. Clair said. But St. Clair said that cracker is a way of life, and as much as St. Clair studies and celebrates cracker culture, he and several friends run a traveling event called the Great Southern Cracker Roadshow. He technically doesn't count himself as one.
Oh, okay.
Just because you live in the South doesn't mean you're a cracker, he said. To really call yourself a cracker, you have to live the cracker way. You have to start your kitchen at 4 a.m, he said. Oh my God, this stuff is hilarious. I'm sorry. Just like all those touristy, overpriced soul food joints, St. Clair said, that you can find fancy cracker cuisine for sale at restaurants all over the South. You spend $40 on cracker food, he said. I call that revenge of the crackers. I'm sure a lot of crackers will roll over in their graves at that. that's what he said. So, before I go into today in history, I told you guys this will be a short podcast today, but before I go into today in history, what I want to say is that, again, for me, growing up in Florida, it was interesting hearing that so much about it was the South and Florida, too. It makes so much sense because I've lived in New York. I've lived in Houston. You know what I mean? I lived here in Southern Cali since the mid-90s. And I've never heard this word so much as I had in the South. Yeah. Not even in Georgia. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know there was a difference between the Georgia cracker and the Florida cracker. You know what I'm saying? I had no idea. And I also think that it's interesting how they didn't adopt and make the word cool the way,
Yes, they did.
The black culture uses the word nigga, baby. You don't hear it though. You don't walk around.
They don't
hearing crackers go, hey, my cracker, what's up, dog? Like, you know what I'm saying? And other crackers,
cracker, what's up?
And other crackers making it cool and stuff like that. Even today in South Florida, you don't.
Okay, they don't continue to use it, and it's pretty outplayed. But I think but they did at some point take it on.
Yeah, of course.
As we can see, But yeah, it's like I said,
they were proud to be a cracker.
Correct.
Y'all gonna call us crackers? Well, Lord Whites. Well, that's who we are. They were proud to take the word on.
Wow. Yeah. Nah. But I do. What's interesting, I think that's cool, is how blacks were protesting and saying it was racist.
Right. When
the whites were too.
The school in Florida.
They said that, but just the fact that two different groups were actually trying to make it better. Right.
And again, I don't hear this word near as much as I hear the word nigga, not even close. So again, they haven't taken it and made it cool and made it a part of their own and get mad when other people say it. Imagine, us saying cracker and whites hearing us going, you can't say that word, man. Yeah. The way we act about the word nigga. Just imagine that. Mm-hmm. None of that stuff goes on with their negative word that
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hold on, before we go, guys.
But how many
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm talking about the governor. He was like, we don't know what to do with these crackers. We tell them to go over here, they don't go. We tell them not to settle over here, they settle. That's just funny. I'm sorry. Anyway, go ahead. What were you about to say?
Just that it's I can't remember right now because that is a funny line. Like that's something like you would put in a movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
for sure,
I guess just that even though it's just not popular, it doesn't, like when you say it, it doesn't feel like anything, But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I heard was the reason why it was cracker because it looked like the white cracker, and even
I've heard too.
Yeah, and even on this thing that Gene did. Or there's a picture next to this write up of different crackers on there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was funny, and I heard back then that's why too, because they said their skin looked like a cracker,
or close enough to.
Yeah, close enough to it. So that's.
I think we do have to check out the word honky and figure that one because that one
another show. Yeah, because I'll have no idea.
But again, that's not something that's really only like I remember at the time when comedians like you said, Richard Pryor used a lot.
Even Eddie Murphy, I think I would hear use it a little bit. But then it just seems it just had faded. It faded away. It's not like it's Yeah, guys. We'll definitely cover the word honky too. Like I always say, one of the cool things I like about this podcast is that we get to learn so much about our history and life and stuff like that in researching all this stuff. It'd be interesting to see where the word honky came from. Just like I just found out all this stuff about the word cracker that I had no idea of, even though I grew up saying it in South Florida, So anyway, so today in history, July 31st, the first one is in 1498, Christopher Columbus, on his third voyage to the Western Hemisphere, arrived in the island of Trinidad, which is where I'm from. It's actually tattooed on my chest, and he named it Trinidad or they named it Trinidad off of something else in Spain or something like that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that happened on today, which I didn't know, in 1498. In 1790, the first U.S. patent was issued to Samuel Hopkins for his process for making potash and pearl ashes. The substance was used in fertilizer. So in 1790, the first patent was issued. And it dealt with fertilizer. I didn't know that. In 1792, the cornerstone of the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania was laid. It was the first building to be used only as a U.S. government building. And I didn't even know that was in Philly. In 1919, Germany's Weimar Constitution was adopted. And you guys could look that up. Like I said, I like to inspire you guys to do research. I didn't look up what that was, but I know in 1919 on this day, that's when it was adopted. And then in 1928, something that relates to my industry, which I didn't know, which is really cool, MGM's Leo the Lion roared for the first time. He introduced MGM's first talking picture, which was a talking movie, White Shadows on the South Seas. And that was the first time the MGM logo you guys see when you go see a movie and the lion roars. And
she roars out.
First time was July 31st in 1928. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, man. So that's our show. Don't forget to subscribe, like I said, on ISC&T Group Digital. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Thank all our listeners on all the podcast streaming platforms. You know what's funny? Every time I was just watching one of Kevin Hart shows earlier today, and I noticed how after everybody's shows now, they literally do an exit video asking people to subscribe.
Oh, really?
Literally, it's like a moment. They do it. They cut the video short when it's in that it's still in the timeline, and they say that.
Oh.
In our shows, we do it within the show.
Yeah.
So we don't. So right now it would cut, and it would just be maybe just a video of us on the side dressed different. Hey guys, don't get subscribed to us. That's how they do it. Seriously.
Okay.
Because so my whole point, listeners, is the subscriptions, especially on YouTube, is very, very, very important.
Yeah.
That's why even your major celebrities are just doing it on the side now, even as a separate video within their videos. So don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for the support. And thanks for all the clicks on that N-word video as well.
And I just want to say, we probably didn't give a lot of opinions on this one.
Yeah.
But I would say any word that's disparaging to any group, we agree that it shouldn't be used. So
Yeah, it shouldn't be used anyway.
Just
like we said about the N-word if you watch that episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our show. We'll see you next Wednesday, and peace out. It's Shakur and Smith.
Thank you.